Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this webinar, fifth webinar of this series. And today we're going to talk about the gut health benefit of copper in broiler production. Narendra Venkatanethi will be your presenter for today. My name is Chantal van Lin. I'm going to be your host. Just a few things before we start. We are more than happy to answer all the questions that you have, but please ask them via the panel that you have in your GoToWebinar tool, so we can see them come in and we can address them in the Q&A session after Narendra is ready with this presentation. This webinar will be recorded, and the handouts and the recordings will be available on request after this webinar. Just a few disclaimers before we get started. Just notice that this webinar is very generic, so the information that we provide can differ from your own local situation. So before you use any of the information here, or when you have questions, please address them to your local sales representative. So with no further ado, I'm going to give the floor to Narendra.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. A warm welcome to everyone for today's webinar. Hope everyone is safe and healthy during these strange times. My name is Narendra Venkatreddy, and I'm the Global Product Manager for Trace Mineral Portfolio. I think last 2 weeks back, my colleague Alice Ebert has talked about eye levels in grower finisher. So today we are going to talk about gut health benefit in the broiler production by using copper eye levels. So today agenda it's full. As you can see here, we are going to talk about antibiotics resistance risk and feed form health approach. Not all trace minerals are created equal. Eye copper level and its effects, and application and results with eye levels of copper. And there is some published literature I'm going to show you, and I'm going to give final concluding remarks at the end. So when we're talking about antibiotic resistance risk, according to WHO prediction by 2050, there is more people will die by common bacterial infection that is resistant to antibiotic than they will die due to cancer. So at present, if you look at cancer is #1 cause of death in humans. This is, I think, very relevant for us for next 3 decades. And also, I think at present, if you look at the COVID situation, we have seen how much health is important. And as global concern about the human health threat is posed by antimicrobial resistance continues to rise, the governments continue to introduce legislations to curb antibiotic use in animal agriculture. And also you can see that consumers are becoming more and more aware. So it is becoming emerging human health risk. So which is, we are all should aware of that. And we also see that there is a study which shows that from 2010 to 2030, you can see there is 67% increase in the use of antibiotics in livestock farming. And also there is some studies says that there is 80% of the antibiotics used in the feed at these mg, like swine, 172 mg per kg of animal produced, and broilers or poultry, we can say 150 mg per kg of animal produce, and 45 mg in dairy or beef cattle. So we need to have strategies. So we need to develop the strategies to reduce the use of antibiotics, both in humans and animals. So from Trouw Nutrition, what we are doing is a complete AMR, which is antimicrobial reduction program. We are introduced. It's an integrated approach. It's very crucial for farm, feed, and health management. So as you can see, there is all these managements. It should be a holistic approach, and especially in this webinar, we are going to give more importance on the feed additives part from health management side. So as I talked, Trouw Nutrition is following integrated feed farm health approach because to sustainably improve poultry performance or reduce the need for antibiotics, we have to take many factors into account, like raw material management, feed safety, biosecurity, hygiene, water quality, and health management. So there are different things we need to look at it, and looking at a particular situation per customer. We design customized solutions in your way to reach your goals. So as a Trouw Nutrition, we have a rich network of global and local specialists that can help you to optimize the production system at each level. So when we are talking about health management specifically, we have different solutions at Trouw Nutrition. One is I can say IntelliBond C or hydroxy trace minerals, which especially today it is very relevant for today's topic, which is IntelliBond copper. And we have other solutions also for gut health, which is Selco pH, which is applied through water, and Prezan FY, which is also an organic acid, and it's a product available across the globe. And also we have Salicid, other product. So, and we have other services also, which you can contact our sales and technical people at your opcos or countries. So depending on regulation, if high levels of copper is not allowed, you can use nutrition levels of IntelliBond copper or hydroxy copper. So which is along with that, you can use Selco pH and Prezan FY. So, and depending on objectives and situation of the customer, we can recommend the right combination of AMR program. Today, we talked about today's importance is on copper levels. So especially when we talk about copper, copper is a trace mineral, which we all know, like unlike like other minerals like zinc, copper, manganese, iron, iodine, selenium, all these are trace minerals. So this copper is also a trace mineral. So we use the copper in two different ways. One is at the nutritional levels, other one is at eye levels. So nutrition levels are fed to the animals to get metal into the bloodstream of the animal in order to available physiologically within animal to drive their processes. When we are talking about higher use levels, we are talking about around 125 to 250 ppm levels in broilers, turkeys, etc. These levels are significantly higher compared to nutrition levels by the factor of around 10 to 12. So our objective is not here to get metal into the bloodstream, but you're feeding these levels to reach the metal into the distal end of the intestinal tract, wherein it is available to interact with the microbiota in order to create a different environment which facilitates overall well-being of the animal. So if we do that well, we can see improvement in the feed efficiency, growth rate, gut integrity, and health. So now we are going to a little bit cover why copper and what is the significance of copper. So as you can see here, copper can limit microbial growth. So you may be thinking, oh, so there are, I just wanted to pop this, some of the news bits. There is nothing novel about copper effect on the various types of pathogens. These news bits you can see here, the bacteria fighting super element that's making a comeback in the hospital. So copper. So that means like if you look at the copper in hospitals, especially in the door handles and all, they use copper because it's of antimicrobial properties. And also there is some other news bits, superbug MRSA has no chance against copper. There are other news bits, Dr. Copper turns a bug killer as hospitals seen boosting demand. So there are a lot of news bits like this, but our industry started recognizing the copper again with its interesting characteristics in terms of controlling dangerous pathogens. For example, if you look at the cow here, which is our dairy cattle in the dairy farms, where you can see the footpath, where they use the copper sulfate because of its antimicrobial properties. So this is very clearly visible. So we can say that the harmful pathogens are everywhere. It is important to do everything to protect the animals. Coming to nutritional levels, we already talked about that. Nutrition levels are used to meet the physiological and metabolical demands of the animal. And feeding nutrition levels of copper will provide, you can say, zero or no effect on the animal on antimicrobial properties, especially in the intestinal tract I'm talking about. So let's see some of the, when you feed copper at the nutrition levels, they have some vital functions contributing to health and well-being of the animal. So several of copper dependent enzymes play important role in antioxidant defense of the body. So which will improve the health status of the animal. For example, if you take superoxide dismutase, cytochrome C, this will help in antioxidant defense. And also copper also works within macrophages to combat certain infectious agents. So if macrophages are working better, so you can have a better immune response in case of any disease challenges. Formation of collagen and elastin. So this is also one of the key function of copper. Normal hair and skin pigmentation. So especially if you look here, it plays important role in melanin formation. And also it helps, copper helps in functioning of nervous system, especially it facilitates a myelin production, which is very important for nervous system. And also it plays very important role in iron metabolism. I think we all should remember that not all the trace minerals are created equal. So there are different forms of or sources of trace minerals are there in the market. Let's look at a little bit history about the trace minerals just to get aware of how this works. Little history in use of trace mineral sources here, as you can see. Trace mineral supplementation started with oxide forms in around 1900s and moved to a little more better bioavailable sulfate forms in around 1940s. During Second World War time, there was sufficient material of this sulfates were available. So then some of the feed producers started using that from that time. And around 1970s, some universities started testing these materials, and they found they have a lot of antagonistic effect because of their reactive nature. So that is the reason then they started reducing usage of sulfates, and later some companies came forward to work on a new maybe new kind of a trace mineral that's called organic trace minerals, which is started from 1970s, and then these trace minerals were started using by many customers, which they could see a lot of improved results. But major drawback of that is having low metal concentration and also has higher cost when you're using organic trace minerals. But again, if you look at later in 1990s, there are a couple of researchers in US started working a new category to come up with a cost-effective product which can meet the needs of the customer, especially a better bioavailability product. So then they found in 1995 the hydroxy trace mineral, which is named as IntelliBond, and 1996 onwards, this product came into the market. So this is new technology in the industry and a new category to improve essential nutrient stability in the feeds and optimize animal performance requiring additional trace mineral absorption. This has a high metal concentration and also which has very good efficacy and better bioavailability. Coming to trace mineral sources, feed stability part, I just wanted to quickly touch upon this. This is a study done to examine the retention of vitamins in the feed or premix based on what type of trace minerals were included here. If you look at it, it's chelated or organic trace mineral, oxide, sulfate, and free metal. So as you can see here, when we give chelated trace minerals, you can see a least drop in the vitamin levels. And also same with the oxides, there is a least drop in the vitamin levels in the premixes. And again, when you provide it with sulfate, you can see a significant drop in the sulfates. And also if you see free metals, there is also a significant drop in the vitamins. So as all the vitamins, you can see vitamin A, vitamin E, K, and thiamine. All these vitamins, you can see significant drop when you use sulfate forms. And we also tested with here with the IntelliBonds, especially this is a study done to examine the stability of vitamin in the feed, supplemented with one group is a control group where no trace mineral is used, and the other groups is 200 ppm of copper sulfate and 200 ppm of IntelliBond is used. Look at this, where in the control there is no much drop in the vitamin E levels in the feed, and when you use sulfate forms, where you can see a significant drop in the vitamin E levels, where you can say that it is around 24% drop in the first 10 days, and it is 69% drop in the 41 days. And when we supplement that with hydroxy trace mineral, where you can see that it is you can see there is no drop, which is almost equivalent to control group here. So here also, when we compare that, it is almost IntelliBond or hydroxy trace mineral, which has 3 times more better retention of vitamin E. And also, if you look at this one, when these diets are fed here, vitamin E levels also recovered in the blood plasma, which was 11% higher for the birds eating feeds with IntelliBond copper, directly showing increased vitamin E availability from the diets containing IntelliBond copper here. Again, this is also in addition to vitamin E retention, copper source can alter how added enzymes like phytase function in the diets. Phytate is I think we all know that phytate is a key substrate for the activity of phytase, which has a high affinity for trace minerals. So reactive sources of trace minerals like sulfates can bind to the molecule easily, which can block the effect of phytase enzyme. So here this study is done to examine the interaction between supplemental copper and phytase in the feeds. So the researchers looked at use of copper citrate, copper chloride, copper lysine, copper sulfate, and hydroxy trace mineral, especially IntelliBond C here. So these are tested at different concentration levels, 0 ppm, 62.5, 125 ppm, 250 ppm, and 500 ppm levels. So here what happened is example, if you take copper citrate, there is a relative phosphorus release is very high when you increase the copper concentration here. So you can see a decrease in the phosphorus release. And also on the copper chloride, also you can see as you increase the release of copper chloride is has inhibited the phosphorus release here. And also in sulfates, you can see also significantly the phosphorus release is impacted when you increase the concentration. But in the organic one, especially copper lysine, you can see there is not too much impact on that. And also with the IntelliBond C, there is no too much impact on the relative phosphorus release. So copper inhibits the efficacy of phytase. Higher concentrations cause more inhibition. Improved sources of copper prevent this due to their lower release of free metal ions. This is something also we need to look. It all started with an observation where control, you can see this control one was made up of, you can say, inorganic plus organic combination, where you can see a lot of clumping, and also its reactive and premix quality is very poor. So this is especially in hot and humid conditions, it will have more impact. Combination, this one here, if you look at here, inorganic, organic, and hydroxy trace minerals are used. But again, you can see still lumping and physical properties are not that great here. And if you look at it, only IntelliBonds are mixed, which is very having very good physical properties, which is very uniform. And you can see, look at the physical properties of that. It's very nice. So let's look at hydroxy trace mineral, which we launched as IntelliBond C. So technology in every particle. So it's very interesting, right? Look at each particle. It is very interesting physical and chemical characteristics with unique, very unique chemistry, and which has covalent bonds similar to organic trace minerals. So it has fully defined naturally occurring crystals, which are especially we call these crystals are made within the opticized particle. We call this as each particle as opticized particle because many crystals are there in that, which will be around 150 to 300 micron size. So this is a very highly uniform spheres and non-hygroscopic, essentially dust-free, and it doesn't react with any other anti-nutritional factors or antagonists, and it has uniform blending, which we have seen in our previous slide, and the physical properties of the product. So again, if you look at now, the important topic of today's interest is on high levels of copper and its effects in the broiler production. I'm going to split this into two parts. One is in vitro data, other one is in vivo data. So before that, I just wanted to also give that some perspective on high level copper effects, how it works and why it works. So we all know that in my beginning of my presentation where I show the copper slide, copper is a very strong antimicrobial agent. So copper has a negative effect for even both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. It's something like acts like a shotgun or hammer. When we use copper, it will knock down the entire microbial population. So, but you need to use at different concentrations for that. When we are reducing these bacteria, especially if we talk about Clostridium, Salmonella, total anaerobic bacteria, coliform populations in the small intestine and cecum of the broiler. So this bacteria, when you reduce, degrade, reduce this microbial populations, the nutrients especially, which will be consumed by these bacteria, will be available once we reduce this bacterial population for the animal to consume, so that those nutrients utilized by the animal to get better performance. So which will result in better growth and feed efficiency. And this is one of the in vitro data which I would like to show here in this slide. It's a classing study where this graphic clearly points out antimicrobial effects providing increasing high concentrations of copper for 4 well-known pathogens, especially I can say 2 from Salmonella enteritidis, Salmonella gallinaриum, and 1 is E. coli and Clostridium perfringens here. So here, please note that the antimicrobial effect highlighted in this graphic is driven by overall concentration of copper present. So you need to have a certain amount of copper required to reduce microbiota. So if you look at this here, 100 ppm levels, there is no effect. So it is not until approximately 200 ppm of concentration of copper in the media. As you can see, there is slight reduction. You can see in different species of bacteria. So when you use at 600 concentration levels, there is a significant impact on the microbial growth rate, especially from 400 to 600 levels. If you can see a significant drop in the microbial growth rate. So you may be thinking that should I use these high levels to have this kind of impact? No, I'll tell you why in my next slide. Here, if you look at, this is another study, classing study in the birds, which were here. What we did is we fed 150 ppm of IntelliBond copper hydroxy copper. So after that 21 days, we collected samples from different parts of the intestinal tract, as you can see here, from duodenum, jejunum, ileum, and cecum. And as you can see, as starch and protein are absorbed, copper becomes more and more concentrated as it travels in the intestinal tract. I think this is one more thing I would like to highlight. IntelliBond or hydroxy trace mineral is very stable above 4 pH. So as it goes towards the distal end of the intestine, the concentration is going to get increased in the digester. As we fed here 150 ppm, as you can see, the concentration is getting increased. For example, we are feeding diet 150 ppm, and you can see here 375 ppm in the lower gut. So which is equivalent to, for example, if you feed in diet 1 ppm in the diet, so which will be equivalent to 2.5 times in the lower GI tract. So as you've seen in my previous slide, to get 600 ppm, where you almost nil pathogenic bacteria, so you need to feed around 240 ppm in the feed. So let's see how it works when we combine both in vitro and in vivo data. So here, if we look at the, especially I can show you the red lines here, which you can see here. Here, the red lines show the impact of feeding a specific level of IntelliBond and microbial populations. So remember my previous slide and the concentration effect of 2.5. So if you look at this 10 ppm nutrition levels, or you can say there is no effect. You can see there is very little effect or no effect on the microbial population. So when as we talked about 125 ppm levels, which is 2.5 times of that, so you can see that there is significant reduction in the microbial population. And again, at 150, you can see more reduction of microbial growth, and 250 ppm, which is almost equivalent to, you can say, 600 ppm in the in vitro study. So this is how it works in both in vitro and in vivo, where it has equivalence of you can say 2.5 times when you feed 1 ppm in the diet. This is also another study where here you can see there are 4 replicates, you can say 3 replicates used here. The birds were sacrificed at the age of 2 weeks, and digester was taken from upper ileum by collected using a sterile technique and frozen techniques. Here, if you look at in 0 copper and copper sulfate, we added at 150 ppm, and again hydroxy copper or IntelliBond copper is used at 150 ppm here. So you can see E. coli and the Clostridium levels here almost in IntelliBond 1, it's almost, you can say, a 69% reduction, and here Clostridium it is around 22% reduction. So what does it mean for the animal? So less pathogenic bacteria means so less bacteria to steal nutrients, so which means better performance. So let's look at one more data on this. So here actually, especially when you look at this data, so high copper can improve the protein and digestibility. So here you can see 4% improvement in the digestibility from when it increased from 135 ppm to 270 ppm with hydroxy copper. So again, if you look, this is not a direct effect. It is mainly, as I told, it's an indirect effect because low bacteria means the gut in the means the bacteria consuming less nutrients, resulting better gain and improvement, especially by utilizing amino acids and all. And even if you look at the vitamin E levels, also you can see a significant improvement in the vitamin E levels when we give IntelliBond C at different concentration compared to sulfates. So there is better vitamin E levels in the liver. Now this is very important when it comes to application. We need to look at the application at different conditions. I made into 4 segments in the applications here. One is IntelliBond copper comparing with copper sulfate, IntelliBond copper comparing with AGPR, especially we have taken BMD here, IntelliBond copper during necrotic enteritis challenge, and especially IntelliBond during heat stress conditions. So let's see in each application, how does this hydroxy copper work? So, I mean, I talked about the previous slides on the copper. So maybe many of you may be thinking that can I use copper sulfate? So in that case, like copper is having a good effects, antimicrobial properties. Can I use that? So yes, you can use it. It's very cheap, but it costs your company. I think why? Because it's too reactive, as you can see here. Even at the physical properties of that is not that good, and also it has, as I talked about, reactive nature. So it also interacts with antagonists, especially in the gut and also in the feed, and especially in the broiler diets. If you talk, we make pelleted feeds where even it comes exposure to moisture, especially even in the conditioning stage. So it interacts there, and it has antagonism and also oxidation with the fats. So you can see phytate, fats, vitamins, all these have antagonistic nature. And it also has a less tolerance. Whenever you increase the copper sulfate, lower feed intake will be there. So let's look at that, some of the data, how it looks like when we compare hydroxy copper with copper sulfate. So this is one data here. The idea here is to show the impact of body weight and feed intake in both the 2 studies. You can see here when we are feeding copper from copper sulfate and also hydroxy copper. So as you increase the level coming from sulfate above 100 ppm, you can see here will start to affect the body weight and also feed intake. So in both the trials, you can see as you increase from 100 ppm, you can see significant drop in the feed intake and also body weight. So this is shows that copper sulfate has less tolerance level and IntelliBond C has high tolerance levels. This is another study. I'm sorry. Can you see? This is another study. I hope, Chantal, can you see my screen? There is something, looks like.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, good. Here, you can see this one as, yeah. Now, in this one, we are comparing IntelliBond C with copper sulfate at 125 ppm levels, where you can see that there is different locations mentioned, key research locations, and also there is different ages, especially which is an average 36 days from average of 7 studies. And also we have seen the body weight improvement of 0.08 for pound on average of from all the studies compared to copper sulfate when we are using IntelliBond at 125 ppm levels. And also you can see there is an average 4.7 points improvement in the FCR compared to copper sulfate. So this shows that it has direct evidence that replacing 125 ppm of copper from copper sulfate with copper from IntelliBond C results in heavier birds and better FCR. So IntelliBond C outperforms copper sulfate in all the trials. Very little upfront cost. I can say it is around just $3 per bird will be the cost, and which will have a return on investment of around, I can say, 6 to 7 return on investment, 1:7 or 1:6 based on these results. So again, here we can talk about now we talked about copper sulfate. Now we can talk about IntelliBond C versus AGP, especially in BMD. In this study, we have 10 replications, and we have 48 chicks per pen, and 49 days trial were conducted. Around 4,800 birds were there. So phytase was used. Xylanase was included in this trial, and the birds used are Ross 708 males. Built up litter. All chicks were vaccinated with coccidiosis vaccine at the hatchery. So performance measured at 14 days and 28 days, 42 days, and 49 days. So, and you can see different concentration levels. I'm going to explain that in the next slide, where different treatments. There are, you can see 10 programs we made here in the table on the left side, where you can see there is one group here, which treatment 1 has no antibiotic or no AGP, and treatment 6 has we used AGP. Let's compare that here. So when you compare treatment 1, there is no BMD, and as I talked about treatment 6, there is a BMD is used at 50 grams. Then you look at the body weight here, there is significant improvement of the, as we all know that it works, BMD works, so it is showing its job. And let's now compare different treatments now, especially here. Here in the treatment 2, as you can see, we used 125 ppm of copper at different phases, especially up to 42 to 47 days. So, and again in the treatment 3, we have used up to 42 days because some customers told that they want to have withdrawal feed, so they reduced it. And again, on treatment 5, if you can look at it, it is we have used a graded program where 200 ppm and up to 14 days, and 14 to 28 days we use 150 ppm, and again 125 rest of the life. So here, what again we compare next program is we compare. The objective of this study is mainly to compare the AGP versus the IntelliBond copper. So where you can see a significant improvement in the graded program, especially when use IntelliBond copper at graded program compared to AGP or BMD. So again, let's some of the customers want to combine copper with AGPs. Let's see how it has additive effect or not. So let's compare treatment 6 and treatment 10 here. So here we have AGP also, we have graded program also. So here you can see there is a significant improvement in the body weight compared to only AGP used. So it clearly shows that the copper, especially hydroxy copper, is showing a significant better performance compared to AGP when used separately as a graded program, and also when we combine with AGP, comparing with only AGP. This is only, we talked about body weights. Now we also look that into the FCRs. So FCRs also, you can see here, it also goes same way. As you can see, adding BMD reduced FCR in the diets with no IBC. So there is a improvement in the treatment 6, we can see here. And also graded IBC, next one, as you can see here, comparing graded IBC, no BMD, and 8 points lower FCR than BMD on no IBC. So there is 8 points improvement compared to AGP program here. So this also shows a significant ROI. And again, if you look at it, there is a 11 points improvement when we combine AGP and the graded program. So this is also a significant improvement compared to only AGP. So this shows us, this product is working very effectively in the especially replacing AGPs. And again, IBC during any challenge, when you look at here, our standard program is around 125 ppm, but whenever the challenging conditions, we increase here, as you can see, 200 ppm and 275 ppms were done in almost, these are 6 trials, as you can, research trials, and these are challenges studies where we can see cocci challenge or cocci vaccine was done in day 0, and Clostridium perfringens challenge was done in day 17 here in most of the studies here, and the treatment was given around 200 to 275 IntelliBond copper levels. So then we see there is an improvement in the body weight on average of 0.221 pound, and again 2.6 points improvement in the FCRs. And also you can see lesion scores were reduced, and also mortality is reduced here. So 6 trials where feeding IntelliBond copper improved performance during necrotic enteritis challenge. Heavier body weights, you have seen lower FCR, less lesions, lower mortality. IntelliBond copper at high levels is a very effective non-antibiotic tool to combat necrotic enteritis. This is another condition, especially during heat stress conditions. Here, what we did is we have given IntelliBond here at nutrition levels of zinc and manganese, and the graded level means like 200 ppm of copper from hydroxy copper, and from day 1 to day 14, 150 ppm from day 15 to 28, 125 ppm from 29 to 42 days. And here in the treatment 2, we use at nutrition levels all the trace minerals, including copper at 15. And treatment 3, we have used graded levels of copper sulfate, same levels of 200 ppm and 150 ppm and 125 ppm. And we used same nutrition levels in treatment 4. You can see in the graded ones, there is significant improvement in the FCR levels compared to sulfate forms. So during stress conditions also, using high levels will help. So these are some quotes from published literature. I just wanted to read out maybe 1 or 2 here. Just it is all there in the public domain. So one quote says that increasing copper from 5 ppm to 200 ppm in the form of IntelliBond C improved growth promotion. Other study or published literature says that dietary copper supplementation may allow for more consistent growth and performance of birds grown on fresh or recycled litter as compared with antibiotic supplementation. So there are a lot more studies are published, so which are all there in public domain. If you want to refer, so these are available to you. So finally, I want to conclude this presentation with a take-home message. We all seen that IntelliBond copper has proven its efficacy in both in vitro and in vivo trials. IntelliBond copper versus copper sulfate copper sulfate is cheap, but it costs your company. IntelliBond C outperforms copper sulfate in all the trials consistently with good economic return. IntelliBond copper versus AGP, here less cost but more rewards compared to AGPs with better performance. So IntelliBond copper during any challenges, a better growth rate, FCR and lesion scores. So you are seen in all these four different conditions, especially when heat stress conditions, a better performance during all these challenging conditions, a better performance. And we also have a recommendation in AMR broiler program where we recommend in the starter diet from 0 to 10, 200 ppm levels, which is equivalent to 370 grams and or 0.37 kilo per metric ton. And the grower, it is diets, it is from day 11 to day 25. We recommend 150 ppm levels of copper hydroxycopper, so which is 0.28 kilos per metric ton. So finisher diets, we from day 26 to 42 days or rest of the life, we recommend 125 ppm levels and 0.23 kilos or 230 grams per metric ton of feed. So this is our recommendation. So thank you for your listening to my presentation. Now I'm happy to take few questions. Chantal, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Narendra, for your story. We have a few questions, so that's good. Feel free to pop in your questions when something comes in mind, so we have time. So use that time to ask us everything you need. Starting with the first one, that's from Lucy. What about the beneficial bacteria? How does copper act with these?
Yeah, we have tested also with probiotics. And also you've seen my data where it has more action on E. coli and Clostridium. And we have tested in the probiotics, IntelliBond is performed significantly higher in the probiotics. There is no reduction much in the probiotics, but especially in the good bacteria. Especially in the copper, because it is having reactive nature, it is having more interactions and it has more effect on the probiotics. When we compared both copper sulfate and IntelliBond, which is copper sulfate has more effect than IntelliBond. So IntelliBond have very less effect on the probiotics. And also you're seen in the Salmonella, it is not like acting on all the bacteria, but only with specific bacteria like E. coli and Clostridium. And there is some effect on the Salmonella, but not we have seen a significant effect there.
Okay, thank you so much. Then Dan is asking a question: does the level of copper in manure have any effect on bacterial content of soil when used as a fertilizer?
That's a good question. Actually, when you talk about environmental effect, when you use copper sulfate, which will have more effect because you see that it is going to bind also a lot of antagonists. So one is copper is also getting lost, and at the same time, it also takes out phosphorus and other nutrients. Compared to other like it also depends on region to region, especially because each region has different soil conditions. So that's why some markets are regulated like EU and all, which is more dense land density. So where there is regulated, but if you take other markets also, there are some deficiencies of copper. So it depends on market to market. That's why governments make legislations on based on that. So it is good. Sometimes it is, if there is high level, so they limit that.
If I can also add to the answer to that question, there's there probably will be some sort of...
Alice, can you just explain who you are so that people know?
Oh, sorry, apologies. I've been helping away in the chat box and the questions. So I've been helping out here today. I'm the program manager for trace minerals for Asia. So there may be a negative impact on bacteria in the soils, but I think if you compare, basically it's all about the concentration of copper that you get in the feces and in the soil. So if you are using copper sulfate, more of the copper will be absorbed and less will be excreted. So your levels of copper in the soil will be much lower. Whereas if you switch to a hydroxy trace mineral, such as IntelliBond, the bioavailability will be higher and there will be less copper excreted into the environment as well. So it also depends on what you're comparing with as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. That's a good answer.
Thank you. Next one is Andras. I hope that I pronounce his name correctly. Mentioned that it's broad spectrum as well as its effect on Clostridium, Salmonella, and coliforms. What about, I think you mentioned probiotics containing bacilli. I think you already answered that
I
one.
already covered that. Yeah, we have a study done on the probiotics and different probiotic bacteria, which is IntelliBond is much better stability on probiotics compared to copper sulfate. So we can share that information if you can share your details on that.
Perfect. Okay, then a question from Adam. My question is regarding the toxicity. What is the maximum safe level of copper which can be used without any negative impact on performance?
We have, for better performance, we tested, I think all your studies seen, we have tested around up to 250 ppm levels, which is depending on challenge conditions. For growth performance, we have seen around 125 ppm levels it is working, or 250 ppm levels it is working in the challenge conditions. But as toxicity, there is, as we also seen on the tolerance levels, especially in copper sulfate, due to its reactive nature, it has some side effects as feed intake reduced. But when we increased, even I think even that study we have seen there, when we increase even at 600 ppm levels also, there is not much impact on the feed intake or body weight on when using IntelliBond levels. So we tested up to 500 to 600 ppm levels. So there is no toxic or side effects on that.
Great, thank you so much, Narendra. I'm just looking. I think we have covered all the questions for now, just by the verbally or in the chat box. So if there are questions still, please put them in. We still have a few minutes to go. So I'm just keeping an eye on that while I'm going to just close this session a little bit. Thank you all for attending. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this was of interest to you. Just want to mention that we have 2 more webinars to go in this series of 7 for our customers. One is in December, so it's about immunity, and the other one is especially for feed millers. So if you can click to the next slide, and people can see Narendra.
I'm just clicking it.
It's stuck.
Stuck. We'll try click it. Yeah, it works now. Yeah.
Great. So that's the next 2 that are still coming. We had some previous sessions as mentioned, so if you are interested in those as well, we have the recordings and the handout. So feel free to reach out to us to get those. I see there are no more questions popping in, so just going to wait just a few seconds. So take the floor if you still have some questions. You have the time now still. No, I think we are good to go, Narendra. If you have questions popping in your head just the coming days, then just reach out and we will be more than happy to help you. So thank you again for attending this webinar. Have a great day, stay safe, and Narendra, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.